Why are the clouds so dark? The skies, why there's so much heat? Hi there. This is Blueprint Land Creation Podcast, and I'm your prophetic professor, Wentworth B. Manson, and today we are out in our university campus yard, Blueprint Land Creation University yard, and I am doing a research and talking about the clouds. It's very important. We see it every day, all over the world. Not necessarily in the desert, but here it is in the Bahamas. We got all of these trees and so forth, and the clouds play a very important part in this ecosystem. As you see the clouds, sometimes they're white, sometimes they're dark. When they're dark, look at the thunderstorms and different things on the inside, but it has much more. It helps with our Caribbean pine trees. As I know, our government calling the Caribbean pine trees, they got 4 areas of looking for carbon. They call it in the sea, with the seagrass and so forth. They call it the marine, and they got the with the seagrass and the mangrove trees. And then of course in the land is in the sea, everything is known as more like the blue. On the land is called the green, and that's all has to do with pulling in carbon, because it's a very important part of carbon coming down from the sun. As I said, made mention to you, when you look at my avatar, when you look at my shirt, normally I normally see me wearing different color shirts, because that has a lot to do with my brand, Blueprint Land Creation Podcast. And so when you look at it, you can see on the inside of it, you can see, if you zoom in closer, you see the eyes in it. Some people think it looks spooky, but that's important, because everything has life. Everything has life, and you have to know how it functions. Everything plays an important part. Everything communicates with each other. It sounds funny, it sounds strange, but everything communicates with each other. As we go on, I will give you even much more detail. Like I said, I have a book called Blueprint of the Bahamas Creation of Land. That's a unique book that tells you a whole structure of a lot of information about the Bahamas, every aspect of it. But right now, coming back to this here, and as you can see, in here we got trees. I am outside doing this here, but I have my cameraman is not present, so that I can really show you my face and all of that. But like I said, and as you can hear flying over, it's a plane flying over. Now those clouds play a very important part. Them clouds also plays a part. As that same little small little aircraft flying over, I was coming from New Providence in June, I think it was, of this year, 2025, or July of 2025, and it came in around about 12 o'clock or so. And what happened was, as we flew under the clouds, man, it was a hot day over these Caribbean pine trees. All I hear is this thumping car, boom, 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 boom. I keep wondering what that is. The air conditioner on the inside of the plane, everything gone. Only thing was coming through was hot air. Carbon was coming in, no more oxygen. Then the pilot would start talking to the other person in the plane. He said, man, I don't like to fly traditional. I normally fly early in the morning or late in the evening. So I get to thinking, and I asked the next pilot about it. They call it downdrafts. So what happened is, from the clouds of the sun, put the heat on the clouds, and then everything bounces from the clouds, bounce on the ground and slam into the ground, and all that heat penetrates in the ground. And as it comes up, if water's on the ground, everything will dries up. And so they keep bouncing and coming back. Like, for example, in the morning, you'll normally see draft. You see moisture in the atmosphere and around it, and it normally be cool around the Caribbean pine trees or in the forest in general. But our sun comes up early in the morning, it starts getting extremely hot, because everything was in the ground, all the water, all the moisture in the ground, that got to be pulled back up to the clouds. So it's like a filtration system. So that plays an important part. So another thing happens is, I used to see a lot of times we call it NASA, we call it the buzzard. It's normally named buzzard too, but they call it, the real name is turkey vultures. And they would be flying around, gliding around. And when I first saw them, I thought something died. Like normally when I watch those Western movies, you see buzzard flying around, more likely somebody's about to die or somebody died. And so the buzzard just waiting to come down and consume it. So I was wondering, I said, well, what are they doing? And then as I started learning about the updraft and the downdraft, what they're doing is they're gliding on that updraft. As that updraft comes up, that wind is able to keep them up, and they just can cycle around. They don't have to put much effort into flying. They just flop their wing once or twice, and they just glide around. And so the same thing happens. That means aircraft have to fly under too. The wind, the updraft that keeps it up, because if the plane engine turns off, what happened? They're coming down. So with the speed of the plane, with the motors on the plane, that keeps the plane in the air. So that plays a very important part. So what happens is those clouds then plays a very important part in the ecosystem of the Caribbean pine trees. Of course, it's a time when rain comes, but I'm in the month of October now. This is autumn. In terms of some parts of the United States still having fires, but in the Bahamas, we don't have no more fires. Our fires have stopped. And I will give you much more details on that. As you see in previous episodes, I talk about the Caribbean pine trees, the identity of the trees. And as you can see, what you're looking at now is the top of the trees. Each trees are totally different from the other. Each one is unique. Just like us, our heads are totally different from the other. The top of the trees is known as the crown of the tree. No two trees are identical. The trunks of the trees, where they said the trunk is also different, because each one of them trunks has different sheets of around it to make up the bark as a protective layer. But that also plays a very important part. And so no two trees are identical, but they plays a very important part in the ecosystem, plays a very important part in pulling out all of the carbon and different things out of the clouds, from the sun as it comes down, and giving us good oxygen, keeping the planet clean. So without the trees, we could be in serious problems. So that's why they talk about climate change and environment and global warming and so forth. So I will be dealing with all of that here in this podcast, because it's very important things. It's very important things to understand about climate change. And in the Bahamas, they say we are low-lying states and we're being washed away by hurricanes and waves and so forth. I play all that comes under the university, Blueprint Land Creation University. And again, likes, subscribe, and share. This is a Blueprint Land Creation podcast with your prophetic professor and lecturer, Wentworth B. Manson. See you next time.